Well, it's great to do this for Jason. I'm just going to talk off the cuff. Jason Gleaves, of course, UFO only, is the man behind the. I suppose you could call him my George Lucas. He's the man behind my work, which began in it really began age 2. When I say he's the man behind my work, he brings my visuals to life. He's very good at that kind of thing. And what we're doing here is like a quick biography of myself, really, and the UFO phenomena. If it wasn't for Jason doing the footage, taking all my footage and reanalyzing it, and he's not even happy with that. He wants to redo it all and get it even more better than what it is. And if it wasn't for him, the broadcasters wouldn't be interested, and I wouldn't be at the level where I am now. And I'm now writing a book. And what he was asking, or what people are asking, in fact, is who am I? A brief bio. Well, I'm Tony Topping. I could be classed as a contact experiencer. I could also be classed as a covert witness, if that's what you'd like to call me. And a covert witness, what is my definition of a covert witness? Well, it's a man in the street. It's the man or woman in the street who has been witness to some very strange goings on and they can't put their finger on it. So you could class me as a covert witness. You could equally class me as a contact experiencer. I am an individual who has had contact with people behind the scenes with the UFOs. Now, there's two ways the cover-up has to work. It has to work. It's in full denial. And there's some very disturbing things regarding the UFO cover-up. And one of the things that is quite disturbing is the situation regarding contact experiencers. Contact experiencers are targeted, but it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So you have this media psyop running of contact experiencers, people who have had contact with the people, you want to call them aliens, behind UFOs, and are in dialogue with them. You're not allowed to do that. There's an unwritten law that says you are not allowed to do that. And the tentacles of that law began with, it actually, frankly, boils my blood. I get very angry about this. It goes something like this. Let's just describe who I am first of all. Okay, age 2, I had my first UFO contact experience. I saw them at the age of 2. And then, and that was like a Hindu Lord Ganesha type vision at age 2. Now, that can be argued by some as being false memory syndrome, in that, oh yes, at age 2, well, you have to be very careful of that kind of thing, because that could be false memory. Absolute bollocks. That what you've got to bear in mind with the false memory stuff is that there were people who went on the False Memory Foundation who were involved in the CIA mind control programs, and to cover their ass, they needed kind of like that situation covered up. There's a lot of cover-up that goes on with being a contact experiencer. So that was age 2. And then probably age 7, 8, and 9, I began to have some further psychic goings-on, including demonic laughter in my bedroom. There's a lot to talk about there as well, which I'll come to. And so we had this situation go on where I was kind of like dabbling in the occult as well. Before I went to stage school, I dabbled in the occult. I cast this love spell, and it backfired absolutely horrifically. When it comes to human affairs, the occult is never far away. There is a lot to be said, a hell of a lot to be said, regarding the occult in Christian faith and the fact that you shouldn't dabble in it, which you shouldn't, because it opens doorways to the mind, and human affairs are ruled by the esoteric. They are ruled by what is hidden, and mankind has been manipulated for many a century. And it's only just now, probably, that that's all being pointed out in the most unique way by the UFOs from the stars above, by the visitors of the star nations. Right, okay, so I then kind of like plodded on a bit. I had an abusive childhood. My father was... what was he? My father was a healer. He was a real good faith healer, actually. And he could heal people hands-on. He was pretty good at it. And he was, he'd lay it on by hands-on healing. He stopped Uncle Bill from hitting death's door. The ambulance crew were astounded. He brought a dog back from the brink, cured somebody of neuralgia, but he could equally give me a headache. He could equally kind of, when I was naughty, instead of giving me a slap on the backside, he'd give me a headache and I'd be lied out sparkle on the bed. Some people at conferences, when I talk about that, find that highly immoral. The other thing that he used to do, apart from healing, was he was in the army, stationed in Vienna. It is said that he told me he was approached by the KGB for some reason, but he never went into details on that and had to report it to his superiors. Now, the thing is if you've got esoteric organisations within organisations, there's a possibility that they might have been tracking me, or tracking my ability, or tracking the fact that I was turning up and on my way. Because there is, ladies and gentlemen, this unusual phenomena. By the way, I'm not saying that it happened to me. People might dismiss that, but there is a unusual phenomenon of people being stalked because by other people, because the other people think they're the Messiah, and that can happen. A very strange gang stalking phenomena that is out there, and it can certainly happen. But what I want to do is just cover about who I am, and basically we had all kinds of things going on at that time when I was in my younger years, and I was abused as well. I was abused quite badly, actually. We don't go into details on that, really. It kind of like traumatised me, but it shapes me for the abuse that was to come. I can't know if you could say it shapes me, because if you're a contact experiencer, as I said earlier, you will get targeted. And there's a lot on the internet about artificial mind control technology, microwave technology, voice to school technology, MK Ultra style mind invasive technology, and it's all covered up. And it's all covered up very well. And it's not what you know, it's what we can prove. So, we prove that I am the loon. We prove that I've made this up. We prove that we're a fantasist. It only needs somebody to step out of the narrative and do something different and watch the fire come back. It's all actually at a very deep level to do with the control of human consciousness. It's a spiritual thing. So when I had my first Lord Ganesha vision at age 2, that was very symbolic. Lord Ganesha in his symbolism actually means that his small eyes means he is focused. He's got a small mouth, he listens more than he talks, but more importantly, the symbolism of Ganesha is very interesting, because more importantly, he's got big ears, which means he actually hears in non-locality, subliminal environment. That's very crucial when speaking to the people in the UFOs. So the saga is gearing up now for me, being involved in the UFO phenomena. But before that, I went to school. I went to a place called Selby High School. It was absolute hell. It was like living in a war zone. My whole life, probably from the age of 10, really from the age of 10 to about now, has just been one great big slog at every level. And I kind of like managed to get into stage school. It was a top London stage school. Oh, he's an actor. Oh, he must be covering it. Oh, he's good at drama. Yeah, he's an actor. He's made all this up. You see how people think. We're blind to it. I want to come to a crucial thing later regarding our blind spot with UFOs. But for now, let's just stick with the drama school narrative. I got a place at a London stage school. It was a top one. And my father, with much indignation, I got into this stage school. The applicants, I think there was 30 places, 1,000 applicants a month, so you had to be good to get in. And I got in. And I remember my father just looking at me. I went, Dad, I've got into stage school, blah, blah, blah. And my dad just looked at me and went, oh? And puffed on his cigarette while watching Coronation Street. That's exactly what he did, the bastard. I've never forgiven him for it, actually. I've never forgiven him for a lot of things, and that's one of them. He was quite a narcissist, quite a nasty piece of work, my father. I've nothing really good to say about him, but there again on saying that, a man with that ability would be targeted by mysterious forces. And so you get right across the board these people who have had contact with UFOs, similar to Billy Meyer, similar to the contactees of the 1960s, and they will be targeted by the most mysterious technology that will tell them to keep quiet, that will tell them that it's all made up, that will tell them to keep hush. It is not allowed, and yet it's part of a wider cover-up that is going on for the most nefarious reasons, and also it has caused information conflict, I believe, anyway, within the US government, where they're at civil war with each other over it, because one element knows and the other element doesn't know about the UFO phenomena, and I believe, for example, that our Air Force, has the right to know what is going on in the skies above it, full stop. I really do. I'll come to that in a minute. As for UFOs invading us, here's a fascinating little take on that. The UFOs, and they're going to invade us, is part of a narrative. As Eisenhower said, we had to be aware of the spiritual, military, we have to be aware of the spiritual, but it's the military-industrial complex that we had to be aware of. And only a vigilant and knowledgeable citizenry would guard against that, and only a vigilant and knowledgeable nations will guard against that. For example, There's an agency, a secretive agency out there that I am very interested in, that I've studied very closely, called the Collins Elite. The Collins Elite were founded in 1950, separate from Majestic 12, and the Collins Elite are an agency. They're a very unique agency. They're an agency that discovered that elements of the UFO phenomena are demonic. Not all are, but certain elements, there's a demonic element that rules over human affairs. And the question has to be asked is, when you look at every country, like from Russia to America, the Americans discovered, via a man actually who was a friend of Kenneth Arnold, called Jack Parsons, they discovered that occult goings-on were triggering UFOs into their airspace, and were triggering the Americans to shoot them down, hence the book by Frank Ficino, Shoot Them Down. These Starfire jets were going up and firing rockets at them, 12 salvos at a time, and the Collins Elite concluded that occult ritual was probably one of the keys to the trouble that was being caused, and it is. So if you look in our world today, you will see a lot of occult ritual, a lot of occult symbolism, but humanity with not a Scooby-Doo as to what the consequences are of that. At the moment in our world, human affairs are controlled, and at the moment you have Russia, China, America, with their stupid nuclear missiles, all gearing up, and it is insane, all gearing up for war, but yet, oddly enough, America funded Russia's psychic warfare program. There's a bizarre reference to it on the Russian remote viewing website. If their paranormal warfare units know what the Collins Elite know, then why then are we continuing to saber-rattle towards war? Well, that is because, as one very learned lady put it, the systems that we have in place are psychopathic, the human systems, they're psychopathy, they are designed to decay and implode, and we need to somehow rise above that. Now, I'll come to that in a minute with the UFO cover-up. It's very interesting what is going on in that area, which leads to somewhere. We're back at London. We're at stage school, and that's really when my strange goings-on began, when I lived in a flat in Streatham. Started to have these strange visions of UFOs. Started to walk down the street one day in Paddington and discovered that there was a UFO flying across fire brigade. There was a fire engine in front of me. I ran to the fire engine. I said, look lads, that UFO, that plane is going to crash into that block, and it vanished. Just before I said block of flats, the thing had completely vanished. Well, those UFOs are very unique. What you've got to remember with the UFO phenomenon as well is that some of these UFOs, they are from other planets, yes, but they're here, they come from bases in our oceans, and that's another area of the cover-up, that our oceans are being used by them as bases is quite routinely is another area of the cover-up. You see, somebody somewhere wants a war. In fact, in my opinion, they would sooner fire nuclear missiles and destroy our cities than have any of this disclosed to you. They would. They most certainly would. Such is the nefarious and disgusting cover-up that is going on behind the scenes, that the military of both Russia, let us say, America, Britain, are aware of at some level. So they are aware that this phenomena does exist. 1990, when was that then? That'd be about 94 when I first saw that, and then I returned to Selby in 96 on my uppers, and I discovered on this particular day I was wondering what the hell to do. And all of a sudden there was this almighty flash in the skies above, like an orange flash. It woke my mother up. I wondered what the hell was going on. So did my mother, bless her dear heart. And my mother recently passed over in March. I had to look after her due to Alzheimer's and dementia. It nearly cracked me up, which it can do, and it does do. It was horrendous. I believe, in my humble opinion, that she and my father were targeted. I'll never be able to prove it, not what you know, what you can prove. So we prove that the man speaking here is a fantasist. We prove he's a loon, we prove he's this. We cannot, under any circumstances, prove that what I'm saying is correct in the mainstream public. You can't have a government saying that this is all correct. You can't. It's the way the cover-up works, I'm afraid. But what you can do is exercise your democratic right to the right of freedom and speech and thought. And you can, I do realise and am aware that not all people in government or our intelligence services or our military are corrupt and bad. There's some good people out there who are here to defend our realm and need to know what is going on. They simply do. They are entitled to know. But you see, you've got this scenario where somebody picks up a phone to somebody, let us say the Joint Chiefs of Staff or our Chief of Defence Staff. He picks up the phone and goes, UFOs, what can you tell us? And they go, sorry, we can't tell you. The President could pick up the phone and go, hello, I need to know about the UFO situation. Can you brief me? No, sir, you're not entitled to know. That's caused a lot of trouble. And what happens is that there is a narrative that is what I would call the industrial complex narrative that says, it's a threat. We need to protect you. while at the same time having the damn hypocrisy to not really tell them what's going on. Fact of the matter is that men gave their lives on the beaches of D-Day to have tyranny, to protect us from this tyranny, not to have tyranny walking through the back door as it has done. And it goes something like this with the UFO cover-up. It goes something like this. In Britain, there's a famous TV show called Minder. Used car salesman, like you probably have in the States as well, called Arthur Daly. He sells used cars that are a bit dodgy. So you have a scenario, if I could explain it in very simple terms, where somebody turns up on a government's doorstep from another planet and says, don't tell them we're from another planet, keep it quiet from the people. We've got this used UFO. You can have it free. Just, we're going to move into the house over the road. Don't look at what we're doing. But you can have this fantastic toy for free. And if truth be told, and don't tell me how I know this, if truth be told, they've paid for that ever since with very little to show for it in my assessment, which is why Eisenhower was absolutely correct. I interviewed Eisenhower's granddaughter, Laura Eisenhower, who was indicating to me that Eisenhower, the president, the great man, had made himself ill due to finding out the truth was what was going on. So at the moment, currently, there's a lockdown on the truth, and there's quite a civil war going on with this narrative, the threat, being played out. So what you've got, for example, is To the Stars Academy. All those guys stood up who were spooks, and they will stand there and they're telling everyone about the threat and the Nimitz threat and the da-da-da-da-da. They just don't get it. They don't get that a threat is a warning. The British government probably, and the British military, because they're smart, probably get that there's more to this than meets the eye than a threat. In fact, I'm not really running to a narrative here, listeners, that's running like a biography. I'm just speaking off the cuff, actually. Jason wanted me to tell people about my life, but I'm just telling you a bit about what goes on. For example, when is a warning a threat? We know, for example, when I returned back to Selby in 1999, and we had the flashes, and that was the start of something. The start of that happened in about 1996, 97, and it began with strange visions of submarines appearing in my dream state. And I couldn't understand for the life of me why they were there, but that's because under our oceans, submarines of countries are monitored by maritime UFOs. They have to be monitored because these submarines are a threat. Now, what happens is in terms of the UK, in terms of the United Kingdom, and this I heard from another party that was from the UFOs, probably the biggest threat to the UK is Russia and China. I don't think China's got the subs, but Russia has. And by far the biggest threat to the UK is Russia's submarine fleet by absolute far. Now, the thing with this is that it would appear that these underwater UFOs, they monitor submarines. And that's connected in my narrative. That's actually connected. And so what happened is, I remember, listen, listeners, I came from a very poor background. I lived in a place in Selby called Robert Street. Very poor background. We did not have jack. And I remember we didn't have a bathroom, we didn't have heating, we had an outside toilet. I used to go to school looking dirty, and I used to be beaten up and called a nigger for looking like a gypsy. Very, very nasty, very unpleasant times they were. I used to get beaten up for being scruffy. We didn't have the money, and then we moved to another housing estate where it all began really with the UFOs. And we moved to another side of town, and I was asleep. I remember it quite well at the time. I think I'd come back from London then, and I remember seeing this vision. Very strange vision of the old dresser that we had in Robert Street, some woman tying back her hair, which I thought was absolutely crazy. This woman would play a significant part, as would other women. That's very interesting, by the way. Just before we go to what she did, it's very interesting that women play a significant role, and have played a significant role, in raising the awareness narrative from it being a threat to being a warning, in raising the fact that they're not here to invade, they're here to communicate. And I feel that only women could be gifted with that across the light years and across the star nations. Only women could raise the flag to our fellow women here on Earth that this is what is going on, and it's not all threat. There again on saying that, and I'm not being here, but I have to be cautious here. There again on saying that, our militaries, including the US military, have to deal with various unknown hybrid threats, as does our government. This is true. There is no getting away from it. Therefore, you cannot wander around this universe in a fantasy world. You just can't. You have to walk with a big stick. But go in peace. That's my assessment of it after 40 years. But the thing is that they're too quick for nefarious reasons to use the current threat narrative in the press as media spin, and that's very disturbing when I'm seeing, and maybe other contact experiences are, something showed to us that's entirely different. So, 96, back in Selby, I think we've gone on that. This woman at the dresser, you know, after all I've been through, I'm quite astounding myself coming out with all this without any form of script. I'm just talking off the cuff. But yeah, 96. She turns round to me, looks at me with her hair tied back and says, "How do I look?" And she's an alien. She doesn't look human. Just doesn't look human at all. Radiating health, beautiful blue eyes, and it terrified me. I was absolutely scared witless by this. Now, you're meant to understand that in the New Age books, or whatever you want to call it, we are meant to understand that is, that, you know, we greet them with open arms. I was terrified. I just was. I just thought, what the hell is that? Because the mindset of the public, the perception, the paradigm system that we have is not geared up for this kind of thing at all. It's more geared up for war and violence and polluting the earth and chaos. That's what it's geared up for. It's not geared up for liaison with people in UFOs. It's just not geared up for that at all. In fact, that's that element of it, and the UFO cover-up is nefarious, frankly, but there we go. And so the strange liaison began, and in 1999 I started having dreams of a UFO coming in over the house. I filmed this UFO, much to my surprise. It turned up on camera, and like I saw in the dream, there it was. It illuminated a TV antenna. It was quite amazing, and that's when Dr. Strangelove came out the woodwork, because I put the UFO footage up online. You could see my UFO footage now and the excellent work of Jason. There's loads of it, just loads of UFO footage, and this creates for me a legacy for the generations ahead, and I'm thinking of putting it all with the National Archive for when I depart this mortal coil. Because as a contact experiencer, you don't know how long you've got in terms of life expectancy with this circus going on around you. You've no idea at all. So I managed to find my way. I managed to kind of like find my way as to what was going on, and this UFO came in.
Now watch as it passes the radio antenna. Just watch this. It might not, or it might. I don't know. This UFO may just illuminate it in some way. Pass straight through it. Let's just watch. Right, okay. Wow. Did you just see as it just left the perimeter of the antenna, how it kind of like a bit of it went straight through it as it powers across? And to all intents and purposes, it's a dot of light. I'm doing this for my narrative because, of course, dear viewer, how many dots of light can you film? But it did something unique just then. And so I just keep this for my historical narrative. Now, certainly early tonight I came straight out the door and there they were, noiseless, no CAA strobe, and it's just travelling along, and they certainly didn't mess about this evening.
They illuminated a TV antenna, and the theme of antenna illumination will be constant from them, because they're wanting to establish communication. No, they're not invading. You see, these civilizations or star nations mirror humanity in terms of structure. They have their own command structures. They actually, some of them, this is off the wall, I know, but the Nordics, for example, and I've done a diagram of it, the Nordics, for example, have something as defense command, so they have defense command, exploration command, and something else, which I'll come to later. But they also have judiciary, like we do. They have legal judiciary. They have their own laws. Therefore, these star nations, who are pretty smart, have no investment in invading Earth. No investment at all in invading Earth. They are under legal due process. They wouldn't do that. That's not what the agenda is all about. Do abductions take place? Yes, they do. Is there a civil war among extraterrestrials? Yes, there is, as there is in government about this information. There's a bit of a Cold War going on, which I'll come to in a minute. So what happens is that this thing came in, illuminated a TV antenna, and it ended up with me being targeted and followed by mysterious people who began to phone me, who began to stalk me, who began to follow me, and began to subject me to the most strangest of audio-visual effects with technology the like of which you've never seen. From gunfire at 3 in the morning to screams to screams at me. I was being targeted. And the pillock who did this, it was a long story, but it is in public record that he followed me into a pub one evening. I was having strange dreams about the man. And he walked past me, and he said to me, or he said to his colleague, I see he's going to the toilet again. Just like that. You imagine that, ladies and gentlemen, somebody you don't know relaying a confidential conversation about some matter, and you don't know them, but they've heard the conversation. It's a similar feeling. And that was because they were doing all kinds of nefarious things with their technologies, and that was one of the things they were going. They seemed to know when I was going to the loo, and they seemed to track me with this. To all intents and purposes, that's schizophrenia. To all intents and purposes, there is no mental health diagnostic for complex post-traumatic stress disorder caused by mind control, caused by mind invasion technology that elements of the intelligence services use. Not all, but elements of. Corrupt elements, and they need to get a fucking grip. Because there's bigger stuff out there going on, and it's an embarrassment, frankly. It really is a national embarrassment on democracies that you have people running around with this technology, and my life was made hell by it. I also had unmarked helicopters film me, and I also, that incident was amazing because I was coming back from town, going over the local bridge, and this helicopter just appeared from nowhere. It was an unmarked helicopter. It was a Eurocopter. I understand from Jane's Defence Weekly that's not on issue to UK forces, but is to Canadian and American forces. And so that followed me, and then we had a plethora of UFO activity going on, from the UFOs coming in, one in particular over a local beauty spot, which then had the US Navy turning up with electronic warfare craft shortly afterwards. Never forget that, but one in particular where the triangle's flying along, and all of a sudden it's interrogated by a UFO that does a 360-degree turn around it and flies off to the right. Jason did some excellent work on that one. It's actually not literally, it's part of the UFO, but to all intents and purposes, what they're doing, even at that early stage, is they're demonstrating a flight technology, a technology and understanding approximately 700 to 800 years ahead of humanity. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to communicate with us. They're trying to communicate. You see, Udo, you've got these two narratives running at the moment in the CNN, and you've got Luis Elizondo and Nick Pope and all of them talking about the threat. That's the main narrative. But what you've also got is a second narrative where these people in the UFOs step out of the alleged media narrative that's being played and just do their own thing. And when I say do their own thing, I mean there is the distinct possibility, and there is, that you could have one of these UFOs turn up like at a Nordic triangle craft. You could have one of them turn up at an RAF base and land and liaise quite easily, because what's happening is, what our Air Force maybe needs to know is that these things that are flying around, these triangle ones, what the Belgium Air Force tracked in about 1997, was it 96? Anyway, the Belgium Air Force tracked these triangle craft that were coming in at tremendous speed over the Belgium area. And the gendarmes took photos of them. They were travelling at speeds of Mach 12 upwards to a dead stop. That in itself, actually, the flash travel race is itself a classified area of development whereby countries are trying to get craft that travel at speed without acceleration or can travel to a dead stop. Is a major technological area that they tend to keep quiet about. But there's a competition going on about that. But the head of the Belgian Air Force, Wilfred de Boer, did say that his triangles were these triangles that he was following were not from around here. They were not human. It was part of an air force that was not human. Normally, these craft are intelligent. These triangle craft have their own mind. Such is the technological development of the AI of these craft that they can speak. And the crews of these craft, who are Nordic, refer to the craft as their beloved ship, because they have a rapport. They actually have a rapport. And the thing with it is this. So much has gone on, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm just giving some very interesting points, and I'm just talking off the cuff. And we'll probably do a part two. But so much has gone on. The interesting thing is that when I had interaction with the Nordics, which began in 2014, at the height of my targeting. You see, I've got journals here, and I was getting hammered. Ladies and gents, I was getting hammered from 1999 till about 2010. I was getting hammered with this mind control technology. The targeting still goes on, but what was interesting is in 2014, these people behind the UFOs revealed who they were to me. They revealed themselves to be people who are blonde and blue-eyed and from the Andromeda Galaxy, and we make no apology for that. And why would I make an apology for that? I don't embellish and I don't lie. Now, you got to have a caveat to that is, well, could it be artificial military technology being tested on you, and it appears that they are what they are? Could it be the Russians doing it? Could it be the Russians actually doing it as well, doing these simulations, so it looks like I've got contact with aliens, when in fact it's one great big military experiment? That's the kind of cover-up avenue you'd go down, actually, to cover all this up. But the fact of the matter is, these Nordics gave a warning. It's called the Nordic Vision, and this is only but one aspect of my contact experiences. And they gave this vision very clear. 2 clocks, one said 11:45, one said 5 to midnight. 2 great big triangle craft in the vision that I had, and literally this man who was blonde and blue-eyed and came to my well, twice now. They've appeared and saved my life twice now. But basically, they came to me, and it was quite remarkable. I had the vision, and I don't know who he was speaking to. It was as if the volume was turned off, but he was speaking to somebody. Well, what he was doing was he was speaking to somebody possibly across a classified network that was across the boundaries of time and space, and he was probably speaking to an agency on Earth, and this agency on Earth was probably having contact with them, and that contact is not necessarily ruled by the boundaries of time. In other words, listeners, that contact may not have happened in the year it happened, 2014, but to me it appeared that way. He may have been talking to somebody else further up our signal line and timeline of humanity. That's highly probable. It's triggered, actually, the continual liaison continue with the Nordic ETs who have been constantly coming in and out all the time, including when I moved to Southport. And they did the most amazing thing just recently, about 5 weeks back it was, where they appeared again, and they keep constantly appearing. And what happened with me, with the Nordic extraterrestrials, there's a lot going on. And what we wanted here was like a narrative of my life, and what I'm giving is snapshots, really, because we'd never get that in the time required. But basically, what was going on with these Nordics was they were looking after me because I was getting whacked, and at one point in the proceedings, I was looking after my mother while being targeted. She had Alzheimer's and dementia. I'm utterly convinced, although I can't prove it, that there may have been something going on there. You see, you can't prove it, ladies and gentlemen. You can't prove this technology. That's why it's called zero evidence technology. Can't prove it at all. And the situation continued. It's a separate theme altogether. Perhaps it's not in the remit to expand on, but needless to say, back to the vision that I had. These 2 triangles and the clocks brought to life by artist Lloyd Canning was a warning at the height of the world being in the Ukraine crisis. It looked as if we were going to war with each other. And that triggered, later on actually, that triggered the Nordics kept coming in with their craft. I kept seeing visions of them. They identified themselves as being from the Andromeda Galaxy. They identified themselves as using bases in South America and the Himalayas. And they closely monitor Earth's environment, more so than we would think. Their craft fly around the skies, closely monitoring things, closely watching things. And you know, laughable as this may seem, they do like to have a saunter around our towns and cities on a Saturday evening just to see what we're up to. They do, because they mirror humanity. You're mirroring, all of creation is mirroring a design code. It's mirroring a musical type, I don't know, a musical dance. Creation, the universe is teeming with life. Absolutely teeming with life. So what happened then was this major air exercise over my town, the like of which you've never seen, where this Hercules transporter craft was shadowed by a UFO. It circled my house 7 times. Though it wasn't a transporter craft, it was part of the Joint Special Forces wing, probably bristling with antenna gear, and it's all about trying to establish communication. It's all about one element of the British government trying to establish, and them, the ETs, the Star Nation people, trying to establish communication. Would be in the interest of the US government, you know, to do business. It's business and commerce. They could get some good deals. President Trump could get some good deals from them because it's business and commerce. That's what it's all about. Even if it was spiritual business and commerce, it's all about trade, not about war. It's about trade with them. But the elements of the UFO cover-up, they go into Nazi Germany. Stem from that, really. When the Nazi German tech science base moved into America, it was the worst thing they did, but I digress. So anyway, we had this situation going on, where we had this major exercise going on with the Luftwaffe, and the RAF and typhoons flying everywhere, particularly paying attention to the field and my area where the UFOs had been. The UFOs had been constantly. And this Hercules that circled my house several times, it came in, and it was looking, and Jason decided to analyse it. I was convinced that it was being shadowed, and I was not wrong. It was being shadowed by a UFO, not attacked. It's about a galactic NATO partner waving at a British NATO partner. That's basically what it's about, if I was to put an assessment on it. Our military cannot go around being blind and live in a fantasy world that all is fluffy and nice with UFOs. I'm afraid it can't. But equally, it must mesh its peaceful means. As Eisenhower said, he was absolutely spot on with the direction that he was giving. Unfortunately, that direction has not been followed, and it's cost the US government dearly, I feel, after 40 years of dealing with this. So the UFO people were there. They turned up. They have constantly been coming in. At one point in the proceedings where that Hercules was, I had my ham radio set up known as a comet antenna in the garden. And on purpose, one of these UFOs came in and literally illuminated it. It kind of like morphed itself. So it flew over the garden, changed shape, appeared to fly right through the antenna, changed shape again and fly off, to which Jason did an excellent analysis of. And it's all about communication. And this constant theme from the Nordics of turning up and being there and being present could only hint at one thing, and that is communication. There's a galactic NATO out there. I'm quite convinced of that. And I'm quite convinced, as I did a sky watch in Wales as well, I'm quite convinced that there's a Cold War going on. I'm skipping over details because I want to write something about what went on there. I want to write something today about my contact experiences, but this is just but one aspect for Jason. In the sense that we were in Wales and we were observing part of a long story. They've been over the Marine Lake as well. But we were observing these UFOs coming in as we do, and Jason was expecting them to power up and illuminate themselves, but they weren't. Sometimes these UFOs will come in and just suddenly illuminate themselves very brightly like a car headlight and go off again to let them know you're here, to say hello, let them know that they're there. On this occasion, however, what was going on? We had a situation going on where these little dot-light UFOs were coming in and circling, and backwards and forwards they were going, circled about 20 times. You may ask yourself, well, why were they doing that?
It really is something else. I just visualised this close encounter scenario, great big bloody thing coming over the treetops. That'd be amazing. There's a flash of light that happened just up there, where my finger, just in that area up there, just then. It's been the odd flash.
I've seen a triangle UFO chase off another UFO. And you may wonder, well, what that's about. Well, in the skies above us, it would appear among these aliens there is some sort of Cold War going on among them. There's the Russia and the American equivalent. There's like a Cold War among aliens going on in the skies above us. And the Skywatch clearly highlighted that was what was going on. Not only did it clearly highlight that, it also identified what parties were where and from whom they were. That happened in a later vision during the week, actually, after the Welsh Skywatch, which indicated to me that the universe was teeming with life. Now, over the years, there's been numerous, and I mean numerous situations of me and the UFOs going on, but I wanted to just bring it up to date to Southport, where I've moved to. You can look online, look on my website, it's all there. And what happened there was I lost my mother. To Alzheimer's disease. She had incontinence. I looked after her for 3 years where we got no help. It was absolutely heartbreaking. Anyway, something was terrifying her. I couldn't prove it. I couldn't put my finger on what it was. I believed that something was after her. It was terrifying her. The poor lady. It breaks my heart. And this is the thing. You see, men died on the beaches of D-Day to protect us from tyranny. and I'm sure the military would agree that the targeting of elderly women by this technology is absolutely abhorrent. We have lost our sense of democracy. America has lost its sense of protecting the world from tyranny. It is capable of being the world's policeman and striving for peace in the world. It's capable. It's a great nation, as is Britain. Britain is a great country. Great Britain. It's not called Great Britain for nothing. We've lost our sense of what we protect. We've lost our sense. We've put military first. We've put the psychopathy first. Violence, all this kind of thing. It's appalling. And so it absolutely appalls me that if my mother was targeted, that she was targeted, it appalls me. And there were some very bizarre incidents going on round in the early days when my mother had Alzheimer's, and it wasn't in the early days, in the later stages, when my mother had Alzheimer's, where I had interaction with a UFO that was coming in over my house, and this woman behind the UFO, who was the woman I saw in 97, was absolutely morally outraged at what we were witnessing. So I'm putting this for historical records, believe me or believe it not. I do not lie, I do not embellish. Fact of the matter is, I had an alien looking at me in my dream state, outraged at what she was seeing. I was trying to look after my mother, and I was being targeted. Outraged. Not only that, I do believe that the controlling mechanism behind this, which is magic, should hang its head in shame over the fact that, once again, men gave their lives against Nazi Germany to defend against tyranny, and my mother was fucking targeted. I believe that she was, pardon my language, and I believe that there needs to be a massive reflection among the security and intelligence services regarding the use of this technology on its own people, for Christ's sake. You know, there needs to be a reflection. You are there to defend the innocent. You are not there to go running riot with this technology and targeting your own kind. It's an abhorrence. And all I would ask is that there is a reflection as to what has been going on among you all, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. And this isn't some sort of wacko, for you know. There are elements of the military who know I've had interaction, and they do know. But anyway, that being said, it's time for reflection. It's maybe time for reflection with me as well after all that's gone on. It brings me to tears, ladies and gentlemen. It really does what happened to my mother. I've lost all track of what I was talking about. I think I was talking about Southport, wasn't I? And I was talking about the fact that we moved to Southport. And I was talking about the fact that we had an outraged lady alien who told me, it was the lady from 97 who appeared again and said it was a number of years. She said, well, I've not seen you for a number of years, but I am outraged. She couldn't believe it. Just morally outraged. And this it was due to the death of my mother, bless her dear heart, that caused a rapid escalation in the CE5 encounters that I were having, so that more groups turned up and revealed themselves to me. And in Southport, when I lost my mother, the council wanted me out of my own house in Selby, and I had to move to Southport, and bless them, they've done a wonderful job here. The church, I owe a lot to the church here. Sorted me out, got me a flat, steered me on the straight and narrow, helped me get through the night. I recommend anyone to join the church. Yes, I know there's all the Jesus conspiracy and you don't believe in God. I know all that. Don't tell me I know. But the thing about that is that you've got to, they were tremendous people. They helped me, and they got me a lovely flat, and that's when the activity began again, because I was collapsing with exhaustion, ladies and gentlemen. It turned out, actually, that I'd been wandering around with type 1 diabetes, and nobody had told me. The doctor's surgery had forgotten to inform me that I'd got it. They actually apologised. I'd been wandering around for about 3 months with it, it would appear. And I was collapsing with exhaustion here, there, and everywhere, and I managed to get it back in line again with diet, actually. And I managed to actually get my diabetes back in line as well, so I didn't have it, following certain dietary restrictions. Sorry, dietary options, should I say. But, yes, I was wandering around with exhaustion. I was collapsing. I nearly collapsed in the town centre just with exhaustion. 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd be whacked out. See, if you get targeted, you get a lack of sleep. Your sleep pattern is completely disturbed. If you are targeted, you don't know how long you've got. It's not very pleasant. Not very pleasant at all, ladies and gentlemen, what happens when you're a contact experiencer. There's a cost, there's a price. I'm baffled to this day as to why these UFOs I'm interacting with allowed my mother to be in that situation, but it appears there is hell on over it. There's some sort of, among this alien Cold War, is some sort of judicial process that has been triggered by what has been going on in the skies above among them all. You can't go around abducting human beings. You can't go around doing your own thing with high-tech technology without some sort of higher recoil coming back at you. Because there is a creator. It does have eyes, it does have ears, and it does have a law. You can't do it. So I think there needs to be deep reflection among Majestic and the United States government as to what the friggin' hell's going on. I really do. I've said that opinion. Yeah. So, Southport. Anyway, so I contacted a contactee friend who was in, I find this all amazing, listeners, who was in America, whose mother used to work for NASA and was a contactee. She asked me what was going on, and she said to me, her words were, "I will contact the ETs who I have spoken to and I am liaising with, and we'll see what happens," she said. And that's what she did. And the amazing story of this is that one afternoon at 2 o'clock, I'm sparko on the bed with exhaustion. I don't know what the hell to do, and I close my eyes, and I start nodding off, and bam, this being turns up, this beautiful woman, a green-looking, bald-headed-looking woman. She was gorgeous, and she said to me that she was concerned, and she said that although we are aliens, we sometimes don't know all that is going on despite our technology. But we want to assist you. And there was a bizarre incident before that happened of a triangle coming in over the green marine lake. 3 pink lights came in for 5 seconds. I couldn't get it on camera, and it adjusted something in me so that I could not be exhausted. That was the thing. Just adjusted something in me. It stopped the exhaustion. I don't know what they did, but they altered something in me. And the toing and froing over the marine lake has been constant with them. For the record, currently at the moment, I expect them to turn up again, and I expect it to be some dramatic stuff on camera. I'm expecting it. My camera doesn't lie. I don't embellish and I don't lie over what happened to me. This all happened. So she said to me that she was very sorry about what happened and we'd be seeing them again. And I wandered round then for weeks now without exhaustion. And not only that, listeners, I had a hernia operation and I had to move house. All in the same year. Lost my mother, had to move house, hernia operation. And the major hernia surgery that I had was at York Hospital, and I remember at 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning I was being targeted again. Next minute I know there was further interaction with what we would call the blonde Nordics, because they work like a NATO. They work all together. They witness all together. They work all together. You can't go around, it appears, in this universe doing your own thing and abusing people. There's recoil. There certainly is. And so what happened was with this vision in particular. And I'm doing this for historical purposes, and I hope in future time, you will enjoy this output and just listen in fascination. What happened was that I had this extraordinary vision. It came in, and it stopped what was going on in my mind with the targeting. This woman declared who she was. Her name was Isa. I didn't get the surname, but it sounded very Hebrew and very Israeli, and it was very fascinating. And Isa told me that they had Defence Command, Exploration Command, Defence Command, Exploration Command, Judiciary, and like a police command. They have command systems like Special Operations Command. It all mirrored like the US military, but these were another civilization, yeah? And they were not happy with a certain situation that was going on, which I'm not going to talk about. There are elements of this that I cannot talk about, and I won't talk about, for classified reasons. You may ask why. Well, it's to protect my sanity, my safety, and to stop putting the fear of God in people. We don't want that. We don't want people panicking or anything like that. So for my own, and it's for my own safety, frankly. It really is for my own safety and sanity that, some areas are just a no-go area. But basically, she told me that and indicated to me that there would be further liaison, which there was. And then came back from the surgery and the exhaustion began. It was absolutely horrendous, and I was being sick all the time, and this being turned up. And then later on, this lady who I was talking about with the green bald head, who just oozed femininity and was absolutely beautiful woman. Beautiful lady. There was just something about her that was enchanting. She was a female alien. Later on, wandering to the chip shop with my friend, we had an emerald green UFO turn up. Absolutely beautiful. It turned up, it hovered around, it went right, it went left, it was completely silent, and it flew off again. And I thought, who the hell are they? That's them. And what she was obviously doing was green-skinned ET, green-skinned UFO, signalling in a very kindergarten way that it was them. Where do they come from? Well, it would appear, after having various other visions as well, that they come from Arcturus, these people, and they are not to be messed with. Arcturus, it appears these people from Arcturus also have judiciary, law, military, like the Nordics do. And it appears that the military setups appear all to be geared up for peace, not for war. They're not there to go warring with each other, but it appears everybody walks around with a big stick because it's an uncertain universe. So it appears that even these peaceful ETs have military as well, because you can't wander around in this big universe with your eyes closed. But basically, she was there. She indicated to me that they were from Arcturus. Something has gone on with them, where they have protected me in certain and very unique ways. And I think I wouldn't be here now telling you this had it not been for them. Not so much the Nordics, but these people from Arcturus who keep turning up. Beautiful people, very nice people. And they were telling me the other day that they were the ones that were flying high above us in Wales at the Skywatch. And they were indicating to me that the universe teems with life and it's being kept covered up. And they were showing me visions, these Arcturians, of plant life and a bee. An actual bee. Can you believe this? But they were showing me an actual bee. Well, were they showing me or were they showing someone else? Because it's black ops. It's a black op, a very unique black operation that is using consciousness and non-locality. But that's what they showed me, and they showed me this bee that was flying around. That was nothing like a bee we would see on Earth, but it was a bee. Because you've got a grand designer who's mirroring the same kind of architecture all across the universe. So the universe is literally teeming with life. And these guys, I think, might be using bases in our oceans, but I'm not sure. The Nordics have been recently, they came in a few weeks ago as well, and that was absolutely amazing. That really was what happened there. That was incredible. But for now, we'll focus on the Arcturus. And the Arcturians, they've been doing things in protection of me. I am protected, it would appear, and they've been watching over something that has been going on. And the US government certainly need to reflect on what has been going on because it was directed at them. And I'll just say this to you, ladies and gents, they have military, they have judiciary, but when you see violence from aliens to other aliens, it's shocking. It shook me up. I think even the most hardened soldier would be shocked. It's just, whoa. I can't talk about it, unfortunately, at that level, but I'm giving you just a quick glimpse as to this Cold War that's going on in the skies above us. So we're not being invaded, it's more about information and who gets what information and where it goes, and a narrative that's being played at one end, and a different narrative that our decision-makers need to know of. And that seems to be the play. That seems to be what is at play at the moment. The situation with the Nordic ETs is that they... I'm just going to casually say it. I won't, in the time space that we've got, we're running up to an hour now. But basically, a few weeks ago, they came back in round about 2 in the morning and started speaking to me. Said hello to me, asked how I was getting on, indicated to me that they had bases in South America. It would not surprise me that a UFO was probably over the house at the time when that dialogue was going on, and this is what they did. They started speaking to people subconsciously, and I was hearing it all, who I knew. And there was a particular person that they spoke to who's quite the community leader. They spoke to him because they liked what he did, and they liked the fact that he had integrity about himself, and he was quite the community man. They thought it was great, and they were all talking. It was quite amazing. And then they had interaction with a guy I know who had a family. What a brilliant job he was doing. And they were just chatting away to them, told them where they come from, said it was lovely to speak to them, but we must now be on our way, and on they went. And that actually happened. Because they're using non-locality, as Dr. Greer says in his CE5 protocol. They'd come from their base in South America, from the oceans. They just come to say hello. It was as casual as that. And that's what it's about. So you've got to remember, at the moment, you have 2 narratives running. There is the threat narrative, and then you have the other narrative running at the moment, which is a peaceful communication narrative, which and our key decision makers, Jesse Ventura said on Russia Today, our key decision makers for the intelligence and military and air forces and navies need to know fully what is going on in the skies above them. They need to be correctly briefed. This narrative that's going on at the moment is just misleading. It's not been correctly explained, I believe. And that's that. So really, I've taken over an hour and I've only just touched the surface for Jason on what he wanted. He said he wanted a biography of my life from point A to B. I think that'll have to be in a book. But a lot has certainly gone on here, and I hope you've just enjoyed this very brief. Well, it's not brief; it's over an hour, isn't it? I believe this time I had a recent vision of them in the UFOs again. They told me where they were going to turn up, but not when. And they were giving me visions of the equivalent of what their UFO would be to our Air Force. So they gave me this vision of our UFO is the equivalent of a helicopter. It's the equivalent, we class it as like a Chinook helicopter. We're going to fly over here. Blah blah. So what they're doing is establishing unique communication with us. That's exactly what's going on, and it's interesting. It's an interesting world, and it's very interesting times, and it's very nice to be a part of it. and the support I've been getting has been absolutely tremendous, from the guys in the pub to the man in the street who are wanting to know because they sense that at some level wool is being pulled over their eyes. I think in this interview that I've done, I hope that I've covered very quickly, in a very soundbite way, a massive area of information. You know, there've been various stuff going on, and the key is to finding out more.